Hi, welcome to Nightly Haven, where mystery meets curiosity. If that's something that you're into, hit like and share. My name is Nikki, and today we're going to be talking about UFOs. I think it's something that is really, really cool, especially all the drones and sightings. It's something that's been going on for a really, really long time. It's not just something of modern times. When I was in art history class, we actually did a whole series on UFOs and Renaissance paintings. And one of the Renaissance paintings is Madonna and Child, known author. In the back of the picture, there's a disc in the sky, and it looks like a UFO. And in the background, by a lake, I believe, there is a shepherd looking and pointing at the UFO, and there's a dog next to him that's also looking at the disc shape. So, I mean, this is something that's been going around for centuries before there was even planes in the sky. People were seeing things. There's countless sightings all over the world, even like hieroglyphics and Native American lore. So I just thought it would be something that we could talk about today. Also, shout out to Dougie Carrata. Follow him if you like him. Story boy, good merch. I've been intrigued with UFOs since I was a little girl from my own experiences. I've always kind of been a sleepwalker, but I've never woken up while I was sleepwalking, except for when I was almost 6 years old. I woke up around 3 a.m. I had my hand, I woke up with my hand on the door. Either I just came back in or I was ready to go outside. And that was definitely startling to wake up that way, in the pitch black in your living room when you last thing remember you're going to sleep in your own bed. And I just remember I turned around, and from my living room, there was a hallway to the back kitchen door, which led to the backyard. And I seen these lights, and they were in a circular motion. And at the time, the only way that I could describe it was that it looked like Christmas lights, which is weird because I never heard anyone describe like a UFO or anything like that way. And it scared me so much that I peed myself and was screaming, hysterical 6-year-old, soaking wet. My dad comes running downstairs to a hysterical 6-year-old, what is happening? And my dad just told me to go upstairs and get cleaned up and get dressed. And I don't remember anything after that. I just went to bed, I guess. But that's always haunted me since I was little. And since then, I've always been intrigued with the unknown and, aliens, UFOs. And then when I was older, which is actually this kind of correlates with my dad's story. But when I was older, I was watching a UFO show. It was similar to sightings. I can't remember exactly what it was. It might have been on the History Channel. And they showed a picture of this guy describing this UFO. And they put a picture on it. And now, granted, this is over 20-something years later, if not longer. It was exactly what I seen. It wasn't the same colors, because I remember mines were oranges and yellows and reds or whatever. This one was more purples and stuff. But it was exactly what I seen when I was 6 years old. And it just gave me such confirmation because I had never heard anyone describe a UFO sighting or a UFO like that before. So I thought in my 6-year-old mind, it was just my imagination. That wasn't really a UFO, you know what I mean? And I even tried to rationalize it and say maybe because we were in the city, which usually this stuff happens in the country, but maybe it was just a car driving by. I know that sounds silly because the car doesn't look like Christmas lights, but I was just trying anything to rationalize what I seen was not what I thought it was. But the thing is my backyard, it was in the city. I didn't have a big backyard. And when you walked out, it was all grass. And then there was this cement, edging, almost like a square. And the road was 4 feet below my yard. So the only lights, if you did see any car lights, it was from clear across the city. So that didn't even correlate. But, I try to rationalize it. When I seen this picture years later, it just was confirmation that I wasn't crazy. That's exactly what I've been saying for years, but I didn't want it to be true, or I tried to rationalize it as a child's mind. When my dad was really little, he was probably between 6 and 9, and he did live in the country. And this is actually the reason still to this day I do not sleep on my stomach. But he had bunk beds, and it was a hot night, so he had the blankets off, and he was sleeping on his stomach. And he said he felt these hands like grab him by the ribs and try to lift him up. And he said the only way he could describe the feeling of these hands, he was like paralyzed. He couldn't yell. Like he tried to like yell for his mom and like nothing would come out. He couldn't move. And he said the only way he could describe these hands was that it was almost like there was skin over bone. Like there was no like meat or muscle or anything like that. It was just skin over bone. And it started to lift him up. And finally, he was able to scream and call for my grandma. And my grandma comes in. And of course, she's all like, oh, you know, it was just a dream. It's just your imagination, you know. And that also stuck with my dad from a very early age and made him intrigued and curious about if there was other life forms out there other than us. And kind of like my story, which my story happened after my dad's, kind of similar thing. Something happened to him when he was little. And when he was older, he was probably around the same age as I was. I remember we were all sitting in the living room, him and his wife at the time, and me, and I was sitting on the floor and we were watching Sightings, which was one of our favorite shows. And this guy was talking about aliens, and he had drawn these alien hands, and they were like very kind of almost very skinny skeleton like. And I just happened to look over at my dad, and he's like white as a sheet, like so white. And I'm like, what? I'm like, Dad, what's wrong? Like, are you okay? And he just looks at me and he's like, Nikki, that is exactly the hands that I felt tried to lift me up. He said, if I could have seen those hands, that's what they would have looked like. And then there was his confirmation and know, you know, that he wasn't going crazy. It wasn't his imagination. He did see or feel something. When my mom was little, she told me this story that her and my grandma were driving. This was in the middle of the country, and it was really late at night, and they were going to go pick up my Uncle Dave. And they were on this back road with like forest on each side of it. And they seen this ball of light, like this disc, and was following them for a really, really long time. Like it was like really down low. And like you could see it out the back window. And it was messing with the electronics on their radio. The radio kept going in and out. And it followed them for a really good minute, my mom said. And eventually, you know, it went away. And then when I was older, like, so my first encounter, I was probably like 6. And then when I was older, when I was about, I want to say between 12, 13, I don't know. I was in 8th grade or going in, I think I was in 7th grade going into 8th grade. And I was sleeping over my friend's house, same friend that we had the Ouija board incident with. And we were sitting on our leg on our stomachs, looking out her window, and we were looking up at the sky, and we were just talking, you know, about what we were going to do the next day, what plans we were going to do. And we seen this, it looked like a star at first in the sky, and it was just hovering there, like not moving, and then it just zoomed clear across the sky. I'm talking hundreds, if not thousands of miles. And then it would just stay there. And then it would across the sky again. I mean, all the way. I mean, I'm talking across the sky. Like a plane cannot move this fast. And we probably watched this for a good hour. Like half hour. I don't even remember how long it was, but it was forever. Because it would stay there for like a long time before it would like shoot off. And then it would just stay there. And then it would shoot off. And then finally it just shot straight up. And then it looked like a little tiny star in the sky. And then it just kind of drifted and disappeared. And me and my friend just looked at each other like, did you see that? Like that had to be a UFO, right? Like, what was that? And then about, I want to say 8 months later, I actually went to Florida for my aunt to watch my cousins for the summer. And this was the summer of my 8th grade. And I was going to earn my own money to afford to buy my own school clothes. And I was very excited to be able to do that. And while I was down there, it was the first time that I ever seen a rocket go out of the atmosphere into space. And when a rocket goes out of the atmosphere into space, it goes out and it looks like a little tiny star. And then it drifts off and just disappears. And you can't see it anymore. And that's exactly what the object that me and my friends seen 8 months prior did. And I'm pretty sure that was not a rocket. So those are some of the experiences that I've had, other people have had through the years that makes me curious, intrigues me, makes me want to know more. We don't know everything. there also could be something. I don't know. Tell me your thoughts. Thank you for joining us, and have a very, very spooky night. Bye. I could be wrong. There could be nothing.
My God, that's a UFO. Advanced drone swarm technology could account for some of the thousands of new UFO sightings in 2019.